Before 2021, Gong Jun was just another handsome face lost in the sea of thousands of aspiring actors in Beijing. He was the commercial king, a model who could sell anything from soft drinks to cameras, but he couldn't sell himself as a leading man. For 6 long years, he played minor roles in forgettable web dramas, hovering in the shadows of the industry. But then came word of honor. In a twist of fate, he was cast as Wen Kexing, the elegant yet psychopathic master of the Ghost Valley. Almost overnight, the commercial king became a global phenomenon. The rise was meteoric. Gong Jun didn't just become famous. He became a top-tier star. His portrayal of Wen Kexing, a character who could kill with a fan and flirt with a glance, struck a chord with millions. He wasn't just an actor anymore. He was a cultural obsession. Fans were captivated by his sharp features, his butterfly collarbones, and his seemingly humble, money-loving personality. He went from having a few thousand followers to being chased by paparazzi at every airport. It was the ultimate Cinderella story of the digital age. 6 years of obscurity wiped away by one perfect role. However, the tragedy lies in the one-hit wonder trap. When you reach the peak that fast, the only way left is down. Gong Jun's fame was built on a very specific foundation: the danmei, boys' love genre, and a character that was written to be perfection. He didn't climb the ladder of the industry. He took a rocket ship to the top. As the cheers grew louder, a silent question began to haunt his success. Was Gong Jun a great actor, or was Wen Kexing just a great character? He had captured the world's attention, but now he had the impossible task of keeping it. After the explosive success of Word of Honor, Gong Jun's face became the most coveted product in China. The industry didn't just see an actor, they saw a visual goldmine. With his 186 centimeters height, sharp jawline, and high-fashion aura, he was a perfect fit for the world of luxury. Within months, he was draped in Louis Vuitton, Tiffany & Company, and Hogan. He was no longer just a commercial king of small brands. He was a global ambassador, the face of prestige. His image was plastered on giant LED screens from Shanghai to New York, turning his overnight fame into a multi-million-dollar business. But there was a strategic calculation behind this glamour. Gong Jun's team pushed his visual image to the extreme to solidify his top-tier status. Every red carpet appearance was a viral event, and every magazine cover sold out in seconds. He cultivated a workaholic persona, a handsome man who loved making money and stayed humble despite the glitz. This made him incredibly safe and attractive to investors. For a while, it seemed like Gong Jun didn't even need to act anymore. His face was enough to maintain his empire. He was the gold standard of the traffic era, a star whose commercial value far outpaced his cinematic filmography. When a star becomes too associated with luxury brands and magazine covers, they begin to lose their actor identity. Gong Jun was becoming a professional celebrity rather than a dedicated performer. The public started to see him more as a model for expensive watches and suits than a character in a story. While his bank account was growing, his artistic soul was being sidelined. He was standing on a mountain of gold, but that mountain was built on the fleeting nature of looks, a foundation that would soon tremble as he returned to the television screen. After conquering the fashion world, Gong Jun returned to his roots, but this time with the industry's biggest weapons. He was paired with the queens of traffic, Dilraba in The Legend of Anle and Yang Mi in Fox Spirit Matchmaker, Red Moon Pact. On paper, these were guaranteed hits, but as the episodes aired, the golden formula turned into a top-tier curse. Despite the combined power of two massive fandoms, the dramas failed to ignite the charts. Critics pointed out a painful truth: there was zero chemistry. Gong Jun and his famous co-stars looked like two beautiful statues placed in the same frame, but their souls never met. The failure was loud and public. In The Legend of Anle, the cheap CGI and poor storytelling were blamed, But Gong Jun couldn't escape the heat. Viewers felt he was overshadowed by Dilraba's strong presence. Then came the ultimate blow, Fox Spirit Matchmaker. As one of the most expensive productions in C-drama history, its failure was a catastrophe. Gong Jun was accused of being too stiff and too modern for the mystical Xianxia world. Instead of being the next big thing, he was becoming the common denominator in a string of high-budget flops. The tragedy of Part 3 is the realization that traffic cannot buy taste. Having millions of fans doesn't guarantee a hit if the connection between the actors is missing. Gong Jun found himself in a dangerous position. He was too big to fail, yet he was failing repeatedly. The industry began to whisper a terrifying question. Is Gong Jun a lucky star who just happened to be in the right place with word of honor? Or is he a box office poison who can only shine when he's playing second lead? The crown of a leading man was starting to feel very, very heavy. As the excitement of his visual aura began to fade, the audience started looking closer at his performance, and what they found was an acting void. The most common criticism leveled against Gong Jun is his robotic or wooden delivery. While he mastered the art of looking like a god in still photos, moving on screen was a different story. In emotional scenes, critics noted his blank stare and a lack of depth in his eyes. He seemed to be performing the emotion rather than feeling it. Whether he was playing a crown prince or a modern CEO, the facial expressions remained dangerously similar, a phenomenon fans call static acting. One of his most discussed technical flaws is his mouth acting. Viewers pointed out that Gong Jun often looks unnatural when speaking lines, with his mouth movements feeling disconnected from the rest of his face, sometimes even appearing stiff or pouting. This lack of facial fluidity makes it difficult for audiences to immerse themselves in his characters. In the high-stakes world of S-plus dramas, where every micro-expression is scrutinized by millions, Gong Jun's inability to deliver a nuanced performance became his Achilles heel. He was a master of the pose, but a novice of the process. Gong Jun's performance in Word of Honor was successful because the character was flamboyant and eccentric, which masked his technical limitations. But when he tried to play more grounded or subtle roles, he was exposed. He wasn't growing as an artist. He was stagnating in his own beauty. In an industry that is slowly moving away from pure traffic and demanding real talent, Gong Jun's acting void became a wall he couldn't climb over. He had the fame of an A-lister, but the skill set of a beginner. The glamorous facade of a top-tier star finally met the brutal reality of the market. In late 2024 and throughout 2025, the industry witnessed the falling star reality of Gong Jun. The most alarming sign wasn't just the online criticism, but the rating collapse. His modern drama Rising with the Wind, despite being a high-quality production, hit record-low viewership numbers on television. Even more shocking was the performance of his S-plus blockbusters. Projects that cost hundreds of millions of dollars were barely breaking even in terms of heat index. Advertisers, once desperate to sign him, began to pivot. In Cbiz, commercial value is a shadow of drama success. When your dramas fail to explode, your brand power begins to evaporate. Fans started to notice a decline in his high-fashion endorsements, and his presence on Hot Search felt increasingly forced, driven by PR teams rather than organic public interest. He was no longer the golden boy who could guarantee a return on investment. He was becoming a risk factor. The traffic era that created him was now punishing him for not having the substance to sustain the hype. Netizens are notoriously impatient. As new summer hits produced new gods like Yu Shuxin or Dylan Wang, the space for Gong Jun began to shrink. He found himself caught in the middle, not young enough to be a fresh idol and not skilled enough to be a respected actor. The numbers told a story of a star who was slowly being phased out by an industry that had found newer, more reliable faces. He was still famous, but he was no longer essential. Gong Jun's journey serves as the ultimate lesson of the one-hit wonder in the modern C-biz landscape. His story proves that while traffic can build a palace of gold overnight, only talent can provide the foundation to keep it standing. As we move into 2026, Gong Jun stands at a critical crossroads. The era of the danmei, boys love, stars is over, and the industry's tolerance for visual-only actors is at an all-time low. He is no longer the fresh-faced Ghost Valley master who took the world by storm. He is a veteran of the traffic wars, scarred by a string of high-profile failures. Can he redeem himself? The path to a comeback requires a complete reinvention. He needs to strip away the high-fashion makeup, forget the top-tier ego, and return to the basics of acting. For Gong Jun, the clock is ticking. If he continues to rely on his face and the same robotic formula, he will be remembered only as a beautiful shadow of 2021, a ghost that haunts the archives of Word of Honor. Ultimately, Gong Jun is a reminder that in the world of Chinese entertainment, fame is a debt that must eventually be paid with performance. He reached the stars faster than almost anyone, but the fall has been just as swift. Whether he becomes a respected actor or fades into the where are they now category depends on one thing: his willingness to destroy the visual god image to find the actor underneath. The one-hit wonder tag is heavy, but it doesn't have to be permanent. The question is, does he have the heart to fight back?